Welcome to the 2024 Economic Depression and Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Year, belated New Year. Happy Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Services are going on in Atlanta, Georgia, and elsewhere across the country. Thank you for his sacrifice and service to America, and also to Black America for making it possible to dream freedom and economic freedom as well as social, moral, and spiritual freedom that we all want in this country and beyond the borders of America too as well. So we want to take a brief moment here to talk about the markets were closed, obviously today for the holiday and obviously yesterday, Sunday. But as the markets open on Tuesday morning, we want to look at some news here that came out last month briefly to talk about that briefly here on this channel, on this podcast. So thank you for joining me. Please be sure to subscribe to Preach to Me for the latest interpretation of financial news data as it becomes available in the mainstream media. And I appreciate your support and love on this channel. So let's get right into it. Courtesy of CNBC.com, we have wholesale prices unexpectedly fall 0.1% in December in positive inflation sign. Now, remember, inflation report came out a little bit hotter than normal in the December report. Most people were expecting a little bit of a decrease. We got an increase of 0.2% on those inflation numbers, and it's still above 3%, and even 4%. But we know, according to shadowstats.com, real inflation is around 10% in America. But anyway, wholesale prices are falling. Now, this is a sign more so, ladies and gentlemen, that the prices are falling because there's less demand, meaning that people are spending a little bit less money and getting in terms of the same goods and services they get. Now, remember, this inflation does not include food, energy, groceries, and any other taxes that may be tacked on. As a result, Americans are feeling the pinch because we experience prices increases in insurances, home insurance, car insurance, medicine bills went up, medical bills went up, and also just the typical prices. The only thing that fell, as you know, was gas prices fell down. It's still above normal, high above normal typically for the wintertime season. So we have all of this here in this type of thing. And this just shows you that this inflation is here to stay. No matter if we get into election year or not, this inflation here is here throughout 2024 and 2025. And as a result, core costs, is the cost of doing business, the cost of getting these loans for services is going to go up. As a matter of fact, the U.S. deficit tops $500 billion in the first quarter of the fiscal year. Now, we know that we've always had a deficit. We know U.S. deficit right now is at $33 trillion and growing every year. But the whole issue of a currency is to kind of protect against that if it's a sound currency. But ever since we've been off the gold standard in the 1970s with Nixon and everything, the Bretton Woods standard, the dollar has been losing about 1% of its purchase value, 1 to 5% of its purchase value per year. And now it's lost almost over 95% of its purchasing power value. So you can print more money, yes, as we did with the stimulus and other things pre-pandemic. And now we're 4 years into this pandemic situation, or post-pandemic, if you will. And the deficit is growing and the dollar is losing even more value, and prices are rising. Prices are rising, but just not as fast as hyperinflation that those doomsday predictors people predict, that things are going to be just shut down and all that. That's coming. But just as Rome wasn't built in a day and didn't fall in a day, the United States is not going to actually, crash in a day or anything like that, because it's an over $15 trillion economy. It's going to take time for all that money to come back flood back to the United States shores, the overseas money and things of that nature. So that's what's happening right now. But the jump in the deficit pushed total government debt past $34 trillion for the first time, as I stated earlier with you guys. Now, this is going to be dangerous because we have a global debt crisis that may be coming. That's what's suggested by CNBC.com and other notable economists, is that all of these dollars are going to be flooding back, and we're going to have a sovereign currency crisis and a sovereign debt crisis at the same time. And that basically means that, we're going to be the same goods and services that we have. We're going to have shortages because there's going to be a lot of conflicts, as you see in the Middle East and other areas that are going to be developing. That's going to create this quote unquote supply shock shortage. And that means the stuff that is out there, whether it's food, gas, medicine, water, is going to increase in price to the fact that the wages are not going to keep up. And that's the concern that a lot of Americans have, whether you live in the Northeast or the Southeast or the Midwest or the West. The concern is the wages of the salaries hadn't been keeping up, even though they've raised minimum wages in some states to $15 an hour. Even though you get cost of living raises to Social Security, regular wages, white collar wages, it's not keeping up with the price of goods and services or inflation, and that is the big concern with the Fed going into these inflation concerns. We'll find out in March when we get to the first quarter earnings and things of that nature, and about the middle of March we'll find out how much damage has been done by keeping the economy closed down for about 2 or 3 years and then just opening it up all of a sudden, assuming that there'll be pent-up demand and not a shock in the prices and everything else. So people, and also that thing too, we have to watch out for this trend, ladies and gentlemen. People are moving out of the downtown areas of cities and the midtown areas, and they're moving into more suburban and hinterland exurbs, willing to commute from work, commute to work if they're not working remotely or working at home, sometimes up to an hour and a half commute. Some people have outside these major metropolitan areas such as Atlanta, DC, Miami, LA, Chicago, New York, Boston, all these cities, Dallas, Fort Worth, Metroplex, all these cities are experiencing sort of people with means are leaving the downtown areas of cities, leaving these high-rise condos and apartments and these luxury villas and moving out into the countries, getting ready, prepping, if you will, getting ready for what is coming, which is going to be a downsizing or a lower standard of living, or kind of a shifting, a great reset, if you want to call it, of the U.S. economy. And this has to happen, whether it happens this year, next year, or in the next 5 years. It is coming because we have, not because of the debt load also, but also because of the spending problem that we have. There's only can be so much money sloshing around in the system, M1 and M2 money supply at a time in this any type of economy. And there can only be so many have and have-nots in an economy system. So that's what we stress on this channel, to continue to prepare spiritually, physically, and emotionally first. And then next to God, you want to have security, of course, security concerns in effect, because as you know, crime is going to go up. And then you want to get into your food, your medicine, and your water, basic needs, and shelter, of course, taken care of. And then you can go into all the advanced preps to help out, forming a community, because it's not going to be a single person that's going to need, that's not going to be on their own, a lone wolf type of thing. You're going to need a community of like-minded people, wherever part of the country they're in, neighborhood, of friends, family, cohorts, etc. So that's what we're going to be looking forward to this year. We made it the first month of 2024 halfway through. Thank God. And so I look forward to talking to you very soon about some other things as we get into a new year. I want to change up the graphics too as well. Let me know, put the suggestions in the comments if you want me in the studio to change up the graphics and get more personal with you. I can have more live Q&A and all of that things in 2024. I want to challenge myself. So let me know in the comments what you think about this and what you think about what we can do to improve the Preach to Me channel. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you very soon. Enjoy your holiday weekend if you get a day off. Blessings.